Hey YouTube, Twig here, bringing you all an update to my Barrel Dragon Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for January 2024. Wanted to update Bandit Keith's signature deck with a playstyle that focuses on being able to flip coins and gain additional destruction effects based on if you get a good number of heads compared to tails. With the coin flips you make, the cards we use involve Desperado Dragon, Barrel Dragon, and even some fusion plays around Gatling Dragon, and being able to get out some of the bigger monsters quite easily by using some fusion-based cards to summon them out onto the field. Very happy with the updates of this deck. It's been a while since the last update to it, but as I said, happy with the results for it. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. We run 3 copies of our main deck boss monster, Desperado Barrel Dragon. If a face-up Dark Machine monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. Once per turn during the battle phase, quick effect, you can toss a coin 3 times, destroy face-up monsters on the field up to the number of heads. Then if the result was 3 heads, draw 1 card. This card cannot attack the turn this effect is activated. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 level 7 or lower monster that has a coin tossing effect from your deck to your hand. So being able to search out the majority of our main deck monsters off of this card's last effect, but also just being able to utilize the destruction effect against our opponent using coin flips, so we can hit a good number of cards and even have some draw power on top of that play, depending on if we get all the different heads, which another card in the deck can also help with that, which is our trap card Proton Blast, giving us a banish option to count the coin flip as all heads. For some of our other coin flip monsters, 2 copies of Barrel Dragon. I'm going to run 2 copies of this card. It is a little more difficult to summon out because it is a level 7 monster with no other additional way to special summon it. Just having the once per turn, target 1 monster your opponent controls, toss a coin 3 times, destroy it if at least 2 of the results are heads. So this card is also useful in the deck because our fusion monster, Gatling Dragon, needs Barrel Dragon for one of the fusion requirements. So we can use cards like Fusion Deployment to reveal the fusion monster and then just special summon out Barrel Dragon onto the field, and then if it gets destroyed, we can then summon out Desperado Barrel Dragon from our hand onto the field. The other fusion material needed for Gatling Dragon is Blowback Dragon. Toss a coin 3 times. If at least 2 of the results are heads, select 1 card on your opponent's side of the field and destroy it. This effect can only be used once during your main phase, but still, this is, I would say, a better card effect compared to Barrel Dragon, because our Blowback Dragon, while needing to have the results, if at least 2 of them are heads, it's more of a chance card, but still, it can destroy any card compared to the just monster effect of Barrel Dragon, and being a level 6 monster, making it a little easier to summon out, but also being the other requirement for our Gatling Dragon means we can also use the Fusion Deployment play to summon this card out as well. One of the other lower level monsters we run is our BM4 Blaster. Once per turn, you can target 1 Dark Machine monster you control and 1 face-up card your opponent controls, destroy them, and if a monster you control that was originally a Dark Machine monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, or a card effect and sends it to the graveyard, you can inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the original attack of one of those monsters destroyed and sent to the graveyard. So you can use BM4 Blast Spider as a destruction blade targeting itself and one of your opponent's cards, destroying it, but this can also then initiate the Desperado Barrel Dragon in your hand for its special summon, since your BM4 Blast Spider was a Dark Machine monster destroyed by a card effect. And then also 3 copies of Jack Wyvern. You can banish this card in 1 face-up machine monster you control, then target 1 dark monster in your graveyard, special summon it. You can use this effect of Jack Wyvern once per turn. So the cards we mentioned already, including Blowback Dragon, Barrel Dragon, and Desperado Barrel Dragon, are all dark monsters. So if we have just another dark monster on the field with Jack Wyvern in the graveyard, having the banish of the card in the graveyard and our other face-up machine monster can then just gives us easier access to some of these stronger machine monsters to then summon out. Having another level 4 monster also gives us some plays with BM4 Blast Spider if need be into rank 4 Xyz plays with the extra deck, but it's mostly used for that graveyard setup and then its banish effect. With the last of the main deck monsters just being 2 copies of Gearspring Spirit. It cannot be normal summon or set. It must be special summoned from your hand by having only machine type monsters in your graveyard, with our main deck just consisting of all machine monsters. And then also once per turn, you can target face a monster your opponent controls and its attack becomes 0 until the end phase. So just being another monster to easily special summon out into the field can help with our Link 2 plays with some cards like Jack Wyvern as well, then being able to set it up in the graveyard while also giving us a Link 2 monster to summon out. And that is it for the main deck monsters. We will now move on to the spells. I run 3 copies of Heavy Metal Raiders. The first time each Dark Machine monster you control will be destroyed by battle each turn. It is not destroyed, and if you took any battle damage from battle, it gains that much attack after damage calculation, and keep that attack gain while this card's on the field. Once per turn, if a monster you control that was originally a Dark Machine monster destroys a card on the field by battle or card effect, you can special summon 1 Dark Machine monster from your hand. So this field spell gives us more access to monsters in our hand to just be able to special summon out using the destruction effects of our other ones, giving us more and more machine monsters to then make use of on the field against our opponent, playing homage to cards that Bandit Keith used, including the Time Machine and then also Slot Machine with 7 complete for the attack boost. I also run 1 copy of Mausoleum of the Emperor and 1 copy of Terraforming for more of a life point use, since we don't really use life points for much in this deck, and then being able just to summon out some of our higher level monsters with this play, and a more searched out form of what we may want to use. If it's not Heavy Metal Raiders for the Terraforming search, we can use Mausoleum, since we may want to use more of our destruction play to begin with and have just another quicker way to get out our higher level monsters. I also run 2 copies of the next field play spell for our lineup, which is our Fusion Deployment. Running 3 copies, sorry about that, not 2 for this card. But with Fusion Deployment, you reveal 1 Fusion monster in your extra deck and special summon from your hand or deck 1 of the monsters that was on the revealed monster's name on that card. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Fusion monsters the turn you activate this card. And you can only activate 1 Fusion Deployment per turn. But what's great is that this card does not negate the effect of the monster, so you can get out your Blowback Dragon or your Barrel Dragon off of the Gatling Dragon and then have both of their card effects to utilize on the field, also setting up 1 of your bigger boss monsters to then work in tandem with Desperado Barrel Dragon also. So this is a definite 3 of it, just gives you that monster to summon out onto the field quite easily. Also 2 copies of Limited Removal. This can be one of your game-breaking plays with just how high you can get the attack of some of your monsters, but also with the card effect Destruction of Limited Removal, you can then invoke the Desperado Barrel Dragon in your hand after your machine monster is destroyed. I also run 2 copies of Foolish Burial Goods for setting up our Proton Blast in the graveyard, because then you have the banish effect to guarantee your all face-up coin toss heads with this card by having a banish for your trap in the graveyard. And we're running 3 copies of it, so just multiple copies to then be able to send off to the graveyard with Foolish Burial Goods. 2 copies of Pot of Prosperity, so we can search out the proper cards we may need for some of our plays as well, like Fusion Deployment also, and not really needing a majority of our extra deck and can be taken away for the banish cost for this card quite easily. And then also for some of the other options for graveyard setup, 2 copies of Twin Twister, back row destruction especially, while our Barrel Dragon monsters handle the destruction of the monsters on the field, and then also setting up other cards like Jack Wyvern and other bigger monsters to summon back from the graveyard as well, using the graveyard discard cost for Twin Twister. And then for the 1 of spells, 1 copy of Power Bond. This is my preferred fusion play, setting up the Gatling Dragon, but also boosting up its attack points on the field as well, making it a bigger boss monster to swing into your opponent, but also giving you the coin toss effect of this card also. Foolish Burial for the Jack Wyvern setup, as I stated before as well. Reasoning, because we do run a good variety of different level monsters, including the level 8 Desperado Dragon, level 7 Barrel Dragon, Blowback Dragon level 6, and then Jack Wyvern and BM4 Spider being level 4. And then lastly, 1 copy of World Legacy Succession for the link play, just to then be able to summon out another monster from the graveyard back onto the field. And then for the traps, running 3 copies of Proton Blast. Once per turn, if the activated card effect of coin tosses immediately after resolves, apply the following effects depending on the number of heads. If it's 1, inflict 500 damage to your opponent. 2, destroy 1 card your opponent controls. And 3, look at your opponent's hand and discard 1 card from their hand. So if you have this card face up on the field and then also have one in the graveyard, you can then use the banish effect, resulting in all 3 of the coin tosses being heads, but then also being able to activate all 3 of the card effects if you have 1 Proton Blast on the field and then 1 in the graveyard, with the last of the traps being 2 Metaverse, just for more field spell search, whether it be Mausoleum or Heavy Metal Raiders that you particularly need, to then either activate or add it to your hand. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I run 2 copies of Gatling Dragon. Eating Barrel Dragon and Blowback Dragon is submitted out. Once per turn, you can toss a coin 3 times and destroy as many monsters on the field as possible, but not more than the number of heads. More destruction plays with this fusion monster. It can also be the powerhouse, as I mentioned before, when you use Power Bond to summon it out. I only have the 1 fusion card to summon it out, but the majority of the time, Gatling Dragon is just in the deck to be that target for fusion deployment to get us our bigger machine monsters out on the field. And I would say this is the easiest way to then be able to summon them out as well. I also run the 1 copy of Barricade Board Blocker with all the field spell setup we have. 1 SP Little Knight, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Underclock Taker, and 1 Platinum Gadget. For the link summon of Platinum Gadget being very, very helpful for being able to special summon out another machine monster from our hand to extend our link plays, along with 1 copy of Cross Sheep, 1 Wee Witch's Apprentice, and the 1 Nightmare Unicorn to finish off the link monsters that we run. And for the Xyz monsters, 1 copy of Gear Gigan X, 1 Ptolemy M7, 1 copy of Big Eye, along with 1 number 68, Xenophone the Sky Prison, and 1 Zeus to finish off the Xyz monsters that we run in the extra deck as well. And then as for some of the go-to plays in the deck, one of the easiest ones I mentioned before is the Fusion Deployment setup, revealing the Fusion monster in our extra deck, special summoning out one of the needed cards off of it. Depending on if you have to destroy a specific card of your opponent's or a monster, you can just get out your monster then as well, and then target a monster your opponent controls with Barrel Dragon for that destruction play. But then this is also just another monster to then rely on with the BM4 Spider setup, which you can then normal summon out on the field, targeting a Dark Machine monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls and destroy them. And then if you control the monster you control that was originally a Dark Machine monster, an opponent's monster by battle or card effect and send it to the graveyard, you can inflict damage to your opponent. So you can have the summon of BM4 Blast Spider attempt the Barrel Dragon play, destroying your opponent's card, but then also have the BM4 to target itself to destroy it, giving you access to another monster for that summon, being the potential Desperado Barrel Dragon you can have in your hand to summon out as well. We also have the activated play of being able to have cards like Gear Spring Dragon and Jack Wyvern. So you have the special summon of Gear Spring Spirit. You can normal summon out your Jack Wyvern onto the field and then go for the Link 2 play with these 2 monsters to then summon out from your extra deck your Platinum Gadget. And then with this card, during main phase, being able to special summon a level 4 lower machine monster from your hand to a zone this card points to. This, if you have the other Jack Wyvern or a BM4 Blast Spider in your hand, can then give you that special summon of that monster, having the same BM4 destruction play I mentioned before, but also being able to then use the effect of Jack Wyvern, banishing this card and 1 face-up machine monster you control to target a dark monster in your graveyard and special summon it. So then you can go for the banish of the Platinum Gadget or the BM4 Blast Spider and the Jack Wyvern, giving you that other resource back onto the field again to use, which you can either have the BM4 Blast Spider and then that additional monster, because then if your Platinum Gadget were to be destroyed, or if you were to use and keep the BM4 Blast Spider on the field for the destruction play, you could destroy it and then one of your opponent's cards, getting out the Desperado Barrel Dragon, keeping your Gear Spring Spirit and also the Desperado on the field to then potentially also go into a rank 8 Xyz play to summon out into your opponent, and then a bigger play if this card attacks into your opponent to then summon out Zeus. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed. Like I said, I always like updating the Barrel Dragon deck. It's just a really fun coin flip deciding deck that you can look into. And I know some of the cards like Gatling Dragon are a little expensive, but some of the other cards aren't too bad at all. So if your big investment is just the Gatling Dragon, you can find this deck with all the cards we've gotten from the Rarity Collection quite easy to build. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.